Hello! My name is Gray.
And my name is Crystal.
And this is Busty Asian Beauties, the supernatural commentary podcast where I, someone who has seen this show several times,
and I, someone who only knows the show through social media, discuss every single episode of Supernatural from start to finish. Also, we are both Asian.
Both Asian. For today's episode, we will be discussing Season 4, Episode 17, It's Terrible Life, written by Sarah Gamble, directed by James L. Conway.
This was pretty good, actually. Like, I had fun during, like, all of it, basically.
Yeah. Like, after you watch this episode, you messaged me, like, is Supernatural actually good?
Or have I turned stupid now? Was the end of that one. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't think you have turned stupid. I think this is a good episode.
Yeah.
It's good. Like, it's fun.
I think, like, On the Head of a Pin is, like, a lot more interesting conceptually. And, like...
Yes.
But, like, I feel like, just in terms of, like, pure enjoyment, like, I think this one wins, even though Cass isn't in it, which is, like, so weird.
Well, I don't think it's weird given that the whole point of Zachariah is, like, I'm Cass's boss. I'm taking over now, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But we do see Cass next episode, I believe, which is the monster at the end of this book.
Oh, shit, we're already meeting Chuck?
I think so. If I'm wrong, well, I'm so sorry. If I'm right, I'm keeping this entire part in.
No, I think you're right, because it's Monster at the end of the book, Jump the Shark, the Rapture, When the Levee Breaks, Lucifer Rising, right?
What do you know about this episode? Do you just know everything?
Not all of it. So I knew that, like, Dean was gonna be, like, a gay Ken doll guy named Dean Smith, like, put in some kind of, like, an alternate reality by Zachariah, and that Dean Smith likes Project Runway and eating salads and isn't a hunter. And I knew that Sam was gonna be, like, an IT guy named Sam Wesson who wears a yellow shirt, and at some point he smashes up at a computer, and at some point blood explodes on his face. But, like,
wonderful.
I didn't know, like, the case stuff, or, like, fully what the point of Zachariah putting them in that situation was.
Yeah. It's very, like, they do this pretty much the exact same thing, but, like, a little bit different with Gabriel. What's that called?
Changing channels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Cass is in that
Sam
one.
becomes the Impala. Yeah. And he has duct tape over his mouth, and he looks so cute. Sam's a lot more interesting than Dean is, even though everyone focuses on Dean in this episode.
I have a feeling that wherever Dean is in his journey, he would still be this. Like, if you put him in this situation, he'd probably pretty much be the same. He'd be, you know, Kendall, Dean Smith. With Sam, I feel like, depending on his journey in life, he could be a completely different person in the world of, well, corporate. And, I don't know, I just find it so interesting that they do this episode here at the time where Sam is the very most likely to act like he does.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like, you know, like, season 1, Sam specifically would not act like this, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but season 1 Dean
only
probably
season
would.
4 Sam would be like, we have to do hunting right now.
This is like the only moment in time where this episode would be true to their character. And I find that interesting. I think we have talked sometimes in other episodes where I go like, this episode feels actually like a more future season episode. Like, I get the vibe that they're going for, but they should have went with it like further down the line or something. Or like, oh, this episode would actually fit better in season 2 because it fits the themes of season 2 better. You know, stuff like that. This one is like a perfect example of it could only work right here, right now. And I love it for that.
Yeah.
For Sam specifically, yeah. And, like, I remember watching it. Like, of course I remember this. But I forgot the way, like, it made me feel when I first watched it.
Yeah.
And now I remember. And it's like, I don't even know how to describe the feeling.
How did it make you feel?
I don't know. It's like, what are they doing to him? Why are they making him act this way? Like, it's not even like, why is Dean doing this? It's more like, what are they trying to tell me by making Dean do this?
That they think it's, like, funny to eat salads as a man. I think.
Sarah Gamble, what are you trying to tell me? And, like, I'm sure that to be, like, a writer in a big TV show, is Supernatural a big TV show? I think it is. Is it a big TV show? It's a network television show.
The American troops love it. God.
It's very in demand in, like, Afghanistan or something. Like, yeah, it's big.
Oh, God, it's so... I mean, yeah, just one of those facts about Supernatural that really makes you sit down and be like, that makes perfect sense, and I hate it.
I don't know. Sarah Gamble has written good episodes where, like, she said things. And so here it's like, what is she telling me? What are you telling me, Sarah Gamble? To get into what Sarah Gamble is trying to tell us, let us look into what Sarah Gamble does tell us the opening sequence of this episode. We start off, like, with an alarm clock going from 5:59 to 6 a.m. It's Dean. He's getting up from the bed. He is in this, like, very nice apartment.
Oh, the music is important.
What is the music? Can you tell me?
A well-respected man by the Kinks.
Is that,
I don't
what's
know.
that mean?
Oh, I don't, just the vibe of the music is very, like, I don't, like,
jaunty?
Like, old-timey, like, yeah, I don't know how to describe what the music is like exactly, but, like, the vibe of it is just very, like, look at this, like, pleasant man in the 80s with his white picket fence.
He makes, like, coffee. Is this the oatmeal? Is this the oatmeal that everyone has... Oat milk that everyone has talked about?
Huh.
He makes this thing with, like, oat milk or something. Yeah, oh no, he makes it with rice milk. I just saw.
Aww.
The box says rice milk.
Hell yeah.
Everyone to hell and back has pointed this out. I mean, a lot of the details with Dean in this episode, has been pointed out. Yeah, people are obsessed with Dean in this episode. I think for good reasons. It's just... Okay, later. Later. Let's talk about it's just later. But yeah, the outfit Dean is wearing is... He's wearing, like, a striped shirt. The shirt is, like, blue stripes. Like, dark blue and light blue stripes. And the collar and the cuffs are, like, starched white. And, yeah, it's a crazy look, honestly. Like, why are you wearing this, Dean Smith? I understand that you're, like, representing a gay candle in a corporate America or whatever, but, like, why are you wearing this? I thought you were a Project Runway enthusiast. But he's also wearing suspenders that are, like, blue and red over this. And a viciously red tie. Like, this tie is a warm tone red. The undertones are orange. So, yeah, crazy outfit.
Crazy. And his hair is all slicked back.
Oh, yeah! It's crazy because, like, I never think of Dean's hair as something that can be styled. And so, like, when he styles it, I'm like, oh, you can do that? That's crazy. I thought it's just there. Like, I thought you wake up and then nothing happens. I mentioned the apartment earlier as, like, very nice. But, like, you can also see out of the window that this is, like, a high-rise situation. Like, he's, like, up in the building, which, like, that does mean something, right? Like, when you're higher up the building, it means something.
Yeah, the penthouse suite is, like, more expensive. If, like, an apartment has, like, affordable housing units, they're often on lower floors, etc.
Yeah, and he enters his car, which is not the Impala. It's a silver... What is it?
Toyota
It's a
Prius, which is,
yeah.
I think that's a brand of car that, like, I've heard in the past that people associate it with, like, being, like, a Bernie voter, or, like, maybe just being a Democrat, like, who's not a Bernie voter. It's very, like, it's a liberal car, is how people often view it.
What's a Republican car? What's a
the
conservative
Impala.
car? Like, with its un-PC smoke belching out of it. Yeah.
Yes! God! Eric Kripke's a crazy
like an actual thing Eric Kripke said, by the way.
I think Priuses are hybrids? I think that's part of why.
Even back here in 2000 whatever.
Yeah, even the 2009 is a hybrid.
That's fun. So it really is the, like,
yeah,
PC,
it's like
non-smoke belching
there's
car.
PC,
That's
not
crazy.
that much smoke. Yeah, and you know, that's a deliberate choice. and it's interesting.
Yeah, it's silver. He goes into it, and the radio cuts off the music that's happening in the show with, like, loud rock music. He changes the station to the AM radio, and it's NPR.
Yeah, which I think the cultural associations of that are also, like, it's like white liberals who have money, I think, that listen to NPR.
I know I mean, I'm not American. I don't know anything about your radio. But NPR is, like, prominent in the podcasting, blah, blah, blah. They have a lot of podcasts.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, and I've not listened to a single one, but I know they exist. Pat on the back to me.
Yeah.
It's
Gold
my
star.
duty and responsibility as a podcaster to know about the
to understand the
up-and-coming
industry.
podcasts. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, to understand our competitors' NPR.
Your competitors NPR.
Yeah, their market share shall diminish the more we advertise.
When we start making $20 a month, it's over for NPR. Yeah, so Dean nods and does a little smile at this wonderful morning news.
Yeah.
Then he drives off.
Wouldn't anything on NPR during this time be about the housing crash? I feel like he wouldn't be having a good time. His portfolio has gone entirely down the drain.
Is this the first time they've ever mentioned the economy in Supernatural?
Yeah, I think so.
We see him head out of the elevator in the company's Sandover Bridge and Iron. Are, like, companies really like this? It's crazy.
Like what?
I don't know. You're a working person. What is working like? I've never worked in an office.
You go in and you sit at your cubicle.
That's
and then
crazy.
you have tasks that someone told you to do earlier that week, and then you work on the tasks. And then sometimes you message the person who told you to do it with, like, questions or updates.
Yeah. Well, Dean's doing a good job of that. He is Dean Smith in this universe. We see it on his store, director and sales and marketing.
Another fun thing is that they get to the line in A Well-Respected Man that goes, and he likes his fags the best, about cigarettes.
Yeah.
But they do play that on the show.
Hell
and
yeah.
I'm sure that Sarah Gamble was having a little giggle to herself about it.
Yeah. And so are all the Tumblrinas.
Yeah, for different reasons, but also the same reason.
Yeah.
But I guess the important things are he's on the phone a lot. At some point he's talking to someone and he's like, when are they gonna make a show like Project Runway again?
Well, when are they gonna do a show like Project Runway again?
I've never seen Project Runway. What is it?
I also have
fashion,
never
I'm
seen
assuming?
it. I think it's like that thing
Is
where
it like a
they make
competition?
like they like design clothes on the spot and they make them on the spot.
Nice.
Personally, I'm an Asia's Next Top Model person.
Okay, so that's the detail. And then I think the other detail is that he's on the phone with someone and he's, like, excited about doing a juice cleanse.
Yeah.
And he says that, like, oh, like, he hardly ever hits the gym and he's getting a bit flabby now. Blah, 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 blah.
You know what's crazy?
Yeah.
Around the time I first watched this episode, that juice cleanse was still popular. Like, it was, like, already a couple years after this episode came out. Have you ever heard of this one? The, like, master cleanse?
No, I haven't. This is a real thing?
Yes. I have done it.
Oh.
Like, in a, like, family pressure kind of way.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's like, they put cayenne pepper and, like, lemon and, like, a sweetener. Usually, like, to us it was, like, molasses or something. I think other people use maple syrup. And it's like you mix it up and then you drink that throughout the day. I don't think it does anything. And also, like, cayenne, like, on water, basically, is, like, disgusting. So, horrible. Don't do it.
Wait, juice cleanses are supposed to be, like, you don't eat anything?
Yes.
You just
You're
drink
supposed
that?
to drink that, yeah. It's, why,
Man.
don't do that. Also, especially not when you're, like, a young child. Highly unrecommended. But, yeah, when he said it, he was like, did he mention the cayenne pepper, like, in the conversation?
Yeah, he was like, cayenne, okay, like, I'm gonna take notes on this. This is like cayenne pepper and lemon juice, and you said maple syrup, something like that.
And I was like, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, also at some point Zachariah comes in and is like, good job, you're like going places, blah blah blah.
That's literally not true. That's a lie. He's lying to you.
That's true. The point of this episode is that he's lying to Dean and Sam, but we don't get to see that reveal, which makes me sad.
Yeah. What would happen to... I mean, are we going to acknowledge that next episode?
I doubt it.
It's frustrating to me that all of the reveal is, like, Dean. And I was expecting,
like you
cut
also
back
put Sam in this situation. Like, what was your reasoning for that one?
No, because I guess the point is that it's not Sam who needed the convincing. It's Dean.
Yeah, but it's also like, why'd you put Sam here then?
I don't know. Maybe they
so
put
could do
Dean...
some of the convincing?
I think maybe Dean was put here first. And he was just, like, really enjoying the rice milk lattes. And they were like, okay, we need to, like, we need an instigator in this place. Let's bring Sam Winchester in. And that's why Sam is also
Perhaps.
here. And also, it's an actual case, which is quite fun. That's not the case for, like, changing channels or whatever. Like, that's not an actual case. This is an actual case. Which is, I don't know, it's, like, fun because obviously they do a lot of, like, role-playing as FBI or whatever, or... Do they role-play as theater people? No, they don't. They roleplay as, like, electricians, and Sam mentions being a theater kid. Well, close enough. But, yeah, like, but it's never, like, high positions like this, you know? So it's fun to see it for Dean. That he's, like, a fancy little guy.
Yeah. Well, he's supposedly good at his job, even though all Zachariah did was... Like, what did Zachariah do to Dean's memory exactly? Like, did he give him, like, an MBA inside his head and then take it away later?
I mean, I think that's also what they do to people who get MBAs. Does he have lunch here? I think that's later.
Yet. Yeah. No, I think he has salad later, so I guess we can talk about what the fuck Sarah Gamble was trying to say here.
No, I think let's talk about the Sam bit first.
Yeah, I guess it's important.
Is it? No, I mean, just to end the scene.
It's important because it's, like homophobic.
I mean, yeah. Well, and so Dean is heading out. He's back in the elevator. We just see him for the longest time. Like, the camera is just on him. And then, like, I don't know, it zooms out or pans to the other side of the elevator. And Sam is there. And he is wearing a little yellow shirt. Some slacks. Yeah. He looks super cute. He's just staring at Dean, and Dean is, like, looking back, like, a bit apprehensively. And Sam just goes, "Do I know you?" Which is so funny. He literally is the one doing the staring, and he's like, "Do I know you?"
Oh, he's just explaining why he's doing the staring.
Yeah, I suppose so. Dean's like, "I don't think so." And Sam's like, "I'm sorry, ma'am. You just look really familiar." And Dean goes, "Oh, save it for the health club."
Save it for the health club?
What does that mean?
I think he's talking about, like, circle jerks and gym steam rooms.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, now that we've
a lot of places are, like, places that were, like, common for gay men to have anonymous sex, and I think that, like the health clubs were, like, one of them.
Oh, this is, like, an actual thing people say?
He's referencing a semi-well-known sexual practice, but I don't think that the phrase, like, save it for the health club is, like, said.
But, like, Sam would understand that that's what he's saying.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Because I literally didn't. I don't know what the fuck he was saying here.
Oh, well, now you know.
Now I know, yeah.
I mean, you could tell later that Dean...
I mean, yeah, Dean says, like, I already told you I'm not into... Yeah.
Yeah. So, Miss Sarah Gamble, what have we here? You know, the first like basic layer where there's, like, no issues are just, like, these are the opposite of Dean's interests, so we're just really showing how, like, this guy is different from him. The second layer, right, is, like Dean encapsulates, like, a form of masculinity that is desirable, and this character of Dean Smith fails to meet those standards and is laughable because of them. I think is the next thing she's saying.
I mean, I need you to know that whatever complexity you're talking about here, I do not understand because my only vision of, like, American masculinity is literally Supernatural and Bruce Springsteen. Like, I'm not even fucking kidding. Like, I'm being so for real right now. Yeah, I have no idea, like, what the typical, like, American masculine corporate whatever is, so.
The thing, like, I mean, you know, like, the song choice, like, A Well-Respected Man About Town, like, in some ways, like, Dean is, like, the like,
well-respected man.
Suburban dream of, like a U.S. American man in terms of, you know, he has, like, money and he has an office job and so on. Yeah. So, like, I guess, but, like, it's also, I don't know, the vibe is, like, it's, like, gay to be like that. But, yeah, no, I mean, she's saying it's gay to have an office job. I think people have said stuff about how Supernatural is, like, hunters are, like, the working class saving, like, white suburban America, right? And, like, by being, like, there's, like, a certain kind of, like, working class masculinity that they're meant to encapsulate, and they protect middle class America, but, like, mostly the women of middle class America, and it's because the men of middle class America are incapable of doing so because they're emasculated by having office jobs and not going to the gym. Like, is sort of the vibe of a lot of Supernatural, and this is just, like, hammering that home.
The only other, like, input I have about this is, I feel like a lot of people have the preconceived notion that only rich people get to be gay. Or at least gay in a way that is, like, flamboyant. Like, for men specifically, only rich men get to be feminine. This is not even feminine. Just, like, whatever this is. Whatever they're trying to say here. Like, only rich men get to be this kind of gay. Yes. I genuinely think if you think that, like, you need to go out and meet gay people. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. You need to meet gay people.
Yeah, I agree.
And not in, like, a fancy party either. Like, go meet people on the street or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that is definitely what's going on there, right? And then also, like, the working class masculinity is also, like, tied to, like being a metaphorical, like, military guy or cop guy, etc., which, like, is very different from, like, this office job director of sales and marketing. Also, I think the juice cleanse thing, I think really bothered me, specifically when Dean's like, oh yeah, I, like, haven't been to the gym in ages, carrying a little bloat around myself. Like we're supposed to, like, be like, that's bad. And I feel like we're supposed to view the juice cleanse as both, like, a class indicator, which, like, Sarah Gamble conflates with, like, a lack of masculinity, like, indicator, and it's also, like, a how dare you take the easy way out to become thin?
I do not think of it like that at all.
Huh. I feel like I read it as, like, the real Dean is, like, muscular because he works out and, like, saves people and is a hero, and, like, people who try to become fit through juice cleanses are, like, lazy and terrible. It's a sedentary lifestyle, my man, as Dean says. And, like, I mean, juice cleanses are bad, but, like, not for that reason.
They're not bad because they're gay. Like, oh god. I don't know, I guess I read that one more as, like, I don't know, because there is a lot of, like, talk about Dean Winchester and his relationship with food, as opposed to Sam and his relationship with food, which, like, later seasons we can really sink our teeth into. But, like, for now, what we see is, like, Dean is, of the two of them, the one who is more of an avid eater. And, like, when there's food in front of him, he wants to eat it. And, like, you know, many people have done the, like, it's because when he was a kid, and, like, I think those are, like, very, food insecurity. That is a very reasonable way to read his character. Here, having him be very picky with his food.
Yeah, is it about how, like, this Dean didn't grow up with food insecurity, so.
Yeah, this Dean isn't reacting to the food in this way because, like, he has a different set of experiences with food. I do think that could have been interesting if it wasn't presented as a Haha.
It's gay.
But it's so gay of him to eat the salad. I mean, it's so wild to me. I think I've said this to you before, but like, I don't think Dean even eats chicken in Supernatural. Chicken. Like, I think Supernatural thinks eating chicken is gay.
Yeah. Well, you know, the hormones they put in those things. God.
Good Lord. I feel like the later stuff with Sam, with the Sam being vegan, but they're not allowed to say it, it's like, is that homophobic? I think it's coming from a different but similar place.
I think it's coming from the same place.
You think
basically.
So? Yeah. No, yeah. I think like, maybe like around that time there would be a different, like sentiment
perception
towards...
of being vegan. I don't think so. When he comes to, he goes like, "Oh my god, I'm so hungry."
Yeah.
So like he was hungry the whole time as Dean Smith, though, right? Like
yes.
Yeah. So it's also about like I think it's also meant to be like a suppressing your true desire to be a hunter thing.
That's crazy. So like Dean Smith's true desire is to throw away the gay corporate life and become a true-blooded, red-blooded American hunter.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Zachariah says, isn't it? Like, isn't that the point of the episode? Like, you could never be happy as not a hunter because you'd have to be gay. Like,
you could either be a gay employee or a straight hunter. Like,
Zachariah literally says that you get to fornicate with women as part of, like, his, like, pitch for why Dean should be a hunter. It literally is, like, you can be a gay employee or a straight hunter. Like, why would he bring that up if it wasn't, like, and you were so gay when you were Dean Smith?
And you were having sex with men when you were Dean Smith, and now you get to have sex with women.
Yeah, but like I guess that also makes what he says to Sam in the elevator interesting. Like is he like I don't think they're like this character is truly gay. They're just like he's not straight enough to be able to have sex with women, but like they still have to be like, but he's not gay or like he's repressed. Like what are they going for?
I don't know. Like when he like tells Sam off later, what he says is like, I already told you I'm not into or something. No, yeah. He says like, look man, I told you I'm not into and it's like, because if he says I'm into period, I feel like that could be like into men. And also now that you say the like health club thing, it's like maybe it's like not into like casual stuff. Like,
that's so funny.
And
I would only want to be in a loving monogamous relationship.
When he said this line specifically, like minus the health club, because I did not understand that the first time. But when he said this, I was like, what is he saying there? So I like paused it and then played it again.
That was just the homosexual lifestyle would be how he would end that.
But I was like, what is he saying here? And also, I don't know. Also because just like Sam's conversations later is like so odd. I've been having dreams. Like, okay, Sam.
Also, I know we're using like gay and unmasculine sort of interchangeably in this, and I feel like primarily what Sarah Gamble is saying is unmasculine, but like, and like gay as like a side dish to that. But like, they're all mixed up together, and I think that it's... I don't know. It is the same thing in Sarah Gamble's mind in many ways.
Like, this is like the fucking difficulty with talking about Supernatural, because we'll talk about something and sometimes I feel like, but I understand that there's nuance, but like you have to understand that the people writing this, I don't think they understand that there is nuance. So like we're forced to interface with it from their perspective of having no nuance.
Yeah, no, it is. We do usually classify, like, oh, you're so unmasculine as homophobia in our spreadsheet, when I think it could as easily be misogyny.
I mean, every single time we do that, I go,
but,
that's
like, also,
misogyny,
like,
right?
homophobia is misogyny also. Like,
everything
it's
is
all,
terrible.
it's all together. Yeah, so that's that opening.
That's Dean. And now we have Sam.
We get the splash screen. And
it's so funny because
it's
like
Sam's turn.
It's such a weird transition to the splash screen because they play like a little like haha funny music after Dean goes out. Yeah. And then it splashes screen to like the screaming and the angel wings or whatever.
The scariest thing one could be is gay but not.
Exactly. Dude, if you're going to be gay, just be gay. So, that's Dean Smith in life, I would say, dude, if you're gonna be gay, just be gay.
Like, what's that thing that woman said, that girl says in Scum? Like it's 2015. No one cares if you're gay anymore. Just come out. God, what an awful show.
It's a wonderful show. Everybody should watch it. But, like, only in 2015. If you're gonna watch it now, don't do it. But, like, go back in time to 2015 and watch it then.
I mean, it's not bad. It's just also very bad. And also, like, terrible. So, it's Sam's turn. He's in this, like, crowded office space in a cubicle. Every time it's, like, Sam's turn, there's, like, a transition shot of, like, a printer and then a pencil sharpener going. So Sam's working IT, so, you know, he also has this vampire bobblehead that he keeps tapping with his pencil. He calls himself Sam Wesson, and I mean, this is supposed to be a reference to Smith and Wesson,
the guns.
The gun manufacturing company. Yeah.
I mean, Winchester is also a gun.
Right. Yeah, basically on all his calls that we will see in the future, he just goes like, did you try turning it off and then on again? And that always works, and he's clearly very annoyed with his job. Sam Winchesters will want a normal life and then despise a normal life.
Yeah.
There's like another guy around named Ian, and he's not wearing the uniform. I guess he's, like, Sam's friend and sort of, like, meant to be, like, a sleazeball character or whatever.
He's supposed to be Sam's dean, I feel like. Like, right now. The, like...
Yeah.
I was gonna say the something to Sam's straight man, but, like, you know what I mean. The gay man to something straight man. But, like, you know what I mean. Like, he's supposed to be
haha, he steals office supplies and wants to fuck people, and Sam has to go, nah.
And Sam is the annoying killjoy that everyone is mad at because he's so gloomy. I love Sam.
God, I still can't believe that, like, 2 episodes ago you were like, I hated how angsty Sam was in season 1, like, his girlfriend died. They have a conversation where, like, Ian's like, what do you think of Mimi? Like, I kind of want to hit that. And Sam says, that's totally age inappropriate. And both of us had the same reaction where we're like, oh, fuck, is she like a high school intern? What's this? But then the guy makes it clear that Mimi is, in fact, like, a senior citizen. And that is Sam's issue.
Yeah. He goes, there's a MILF there.
There's a MILF there, Sam.
Maybe a GMILF. He's just like me for real.
Were people saying GMILF, like, to separate them from, like GPILFs? Like, I've only heard GILF. Good to have this insight into 2009.
Sam is always involved with a MILF somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere, somehow, there's a place for them.
Unfortunately, his MILF dose intolerance, so R.I.P.
R.I.P. So, they get up for a coffee break, and they pass by Paul. Ian invites Paul along, but Paul is very focused on his laptop, just typing, says, like, there's absolutely no time for this, I'm working. Ian explains that Paul might be afraid because he got busted for looking at porn on the internet and got sent to HR about it. So we find out later that Sam has only been here for 3 weeks.
Why
do you make friends this fast? Yeah. I mean, I know that I'm, like, a weirdo and, like, literally the only one in my job position who eats lunch alone, but, like... do people make friends this fast? Does this happen?
Me?
Yeah, or just people.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, congrats. I do not. I was like, they've gotta be buddies for, like, months.
I mean, the thing about me is I don't make friends slow. but I do have like a quicker like turnover, especially when like it's work friends. I mean, obviously with like friends that's not the case, but like if we're buddies at like this kind of setting, it's like okay, we'll spend one day getting to know each other, and then like after 3 days I'm like tired and I don't want to talk to you. So weird.
Damn.
But yeah, I get like your complaint is like, how is he here only 3 weeks and he already has a buddy? And I'm like, how is he not sick of this guy? And he still has a buddy. Like, why is it still this guy?
For realsies. I don't know. We've talked about Sam's capacity to make friends in the past, and like it does seem important to me that like he's here and he's like friends with Ian. They seem to have a rapport with Paul as well. And like Dean's like alone in his office. Like he does have that one guy that he talks to in the montage about Project Runway, I guess, but like they don't give him like a friend character.
A buddy, yeah.
But like, yeah, but they give Sam a friend character here and an after school special.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. I'm sad that Sam is good at making friends, but he's just never like now that he's never in a scenario where he can make friends the way he's good at making friends. Like, because Dean views like his like friends as his responsibility, like hunting situations where it's life or death. It's probably easier for him to form a connection, but like Sam just like wants like casual chit chat that becomes sharing feelings later.
Yeah, like I keep on saying buddy because like that's the vibe, and like I feel like for Sam, like a lot of his friends are like his buddies, like someone to like hang out with in this way.
Like his friends come from stability, like just seeing the same people every day.
Yes, that's one. Yeah, I don't know. I think about the fact that like with Henriksen, for example, like Dean and Henriksen were able to connect because it was like
they were fighting for their lives.
Yeah, it was a fierce and like intense moment. But every time Sam is like in an intense moment with someone, I don't think it ever turns into like a personal connection. It's always like I'm trying to do my job. I'm trying to get in here and then out of here.
Yeah. He and Eileen become friends in like quiet moments, like during the actual banshee hunting, like there's not much going on there.
Yeah, and also he wasn't saving Eileen. Like that's an equal.
I'd say Dean and Henriksen were fighting side by side though.
Yes, I suppose that's true. I think I was also like lumping in Dean's other stuff where he like in episode 3, that lady in him, whatever.
Do you mean Andrea or do you mean in episode 2 with him and Haley?
No, the dead in the water kid mom. The dead in the water
Andrea.
mom, yeah. Andrea, the Andrea of Andreaverse. Yeah. And in those cases, like, Dean also has, like, a more chummy relationship with the people that they're saving. Because he is able to have fun in the job. Like, it sounds so stupid, but, like, he's able to be, like, goofy in the job. While Sam is a lot more, like, let's get in here and then let's get out of here.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Sam's still trying to maintain some kind of work-life separation, I guess.
Isn't it so interesting that, like, I don't know, they put them in here? I mean, I'm sure later we'll talk about the, like, capitalist implications of, like, they put them in a corporate setting and then suddenly their entire life is in the office. But the thing is, like, they keep on telling Dean, like, you're made for this. But, like,
they give him a mechanic, bro.
They give him nothing else outside of this office, you know? Like, outside of his pristine apartment, his pristine car, and his pristine office, there's no, like, he has no life. He has, like, no buddies. He hasn't talked to his family. He has no one. And he has, like, no hobby. You know, there's nothing. And with Sam, it's the same thing, too. And it obviously, what Zechariah is doing is unfair. But, like, it's extra unfair with the fact that he's saying, like, you do not like this life because you do not like this job, when, like, the life and the job is not, like, the same thing.
Yeah.
The job is not the life, but, like, he insists that it is. And because you don't like to sit on your ass and take phone calls, then it's over for you.
Yeah, like there's no other option for you in this world.
Yeah.
Like there is, in fact.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a strange thing, but I don't know. I guess it speaks to what Sarah Gamble thinks that the two ways of being alive are.
Yeah, two ways of being alive is, as we've said, gay employee or straight hunter.
You know, Ian steals some office supplies and Sam's like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, come on, Sam.
There's also, like, you can see at the back of Sam, there's like a microwave. On top of it, there's a note that says, do not heat your fish here. It stinks. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And, like, I thought this was just like a passing, like, detail. And I was like, oh, that's super fun that they have that on top of their microwave. Like, it brings a little life to this place. And then later, it does become kind of relevant because they use it as
it's like
a set piece
irony.
For the gore scene.
So Ian asks if Sam had any of those dreams lately. Which, okay, we learn later that Dean has a sister. I feel like Sam Wesson is an only child.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. Like, he really has no one to tell this to besides his 3-week-long friend who is mostly annoying. Ian's being mocking. He's saying that hearing about the dreams is the highlight of his day. Don't hold out on me. And Sam's just like, ugh, I never should have told you in the first place. You're just gonna be a dick about it. And the thing is, like, the dream that he says is not even weird. Like, if someone told me they had that dream... Like, I mean, if someone in my world told me they had that dream, I'd be like, watching a little too much Supernatural, are we? But, like, if there was no Supernatural, I'd just be like, yeah, okay.
Nice one, dude, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you thinking of making that into a book? If not, I think you just forget about it completely, but go on.
No, yeah, but apparently, like Ian just thinks that this is, like, absolutely hilarious that Sam dreamt that he saved a Grim Reaper named Tessa from demons. Ian's just laughing his ass off at this pretty normal dream. And is going like, how much D&D did you play when you were a kid? If we were people who knew things more, we could have the discussion about, like, what Sam plays as in D&D, but I only play non-D&D TTRPGs, and you think that playing D&D is a very funny, laughable, perhaps even piteous thing to do as immortalized in the title for our Red Sky Up Morning episode.
Well.
So, I mean, just going off of my, like, zero knowledge, like, I think that, like, Paladin seems like the most obvious choice, but I think it's just because I don't know other classes well enough.
I mean, the only thing I know about D&D is, I think Danica told me, like, it's a pity you don't play D&D because you like to do the voices.
It's
like,
true.
So now I know that you do voices in that thing. Except you don't because you're a loser, even within the loser circle.
Yeah, that part is true. I have no arguments against that.
You have no protestations, yeah.
Sam starts having, like, a bunch of flashbacks of things that happened in Supernatural, of him fighting and things, and then it ends with Dean killing a vampire.
So, we're back at the elevator, and this time there's, like, a couple other people with Sam and Dean, and then when the people head out, Sam and Dean are left, and... like, I feel like Sam is, like, trying to not look at Dean. And Dean is like, please don't look at me. Like, that's the vibe of the scene. And then, finally, Sam is just like, hi, can I ask you a question? And then Dean is like, as I've said earlier, like, look, man, I told you I'm not into the blah, blah, blah. And Sam's like, oh, dude, come on, I'm not either. He's so
That's
funny.
A lie. He's lying to us.
And he just goes, I just want to ask you one question. What do you think about ghosts? And Dean is just like, I don't know what you're on about, but I've not given it much thought. And Sam starts asking about vampires. And then he's like, I've been having some weird dreams lately. You know what I mean? And Dean's like, no. Sam's like, so you've never had any weird dreams? And then Dean's like, fuck off, and then he leaves. He goes like, you know, you're an oversharer, and then he leaves.
I do think it's unfortunate that they're throwing bones to the wincesties in this episode, but they do the same thing in The French Mistake as a thing. If this was just like a one-off, I'd be like, fine. But it seems like it's like every time you put them in a new scenario, they're like, but what if it was gay, but it wasn't? But what if it was, but it wasn't? What if it was incest, but it wasn't? You know?
Yeah. It is still so wild to me that in fucking fan fiction, episode 10 of 10, I don't know, I forgot. Oh, 10:05. Like, they do a bit where they talk about incest, and then they do a bit where they talk about Destiel, and Jensen Ackles does the camera, the like breaking the fourth wall camera look at the Destiel. And like, we just talked about incest. Like, what's going on in this thing?
Yeah.
Like if this is homophobia, the incest is also gay. Like, what's happening?
Yeah, being gay is only okay if you're related, guys. That's what Jensen Ackles thinks. He said this to me in my dreams.
Supernatural is such an odd show. But yeah,
I don't know, for some reason they're like, the wincest fans are like the real fans. They've been with us since the beginning, so we don't want to alienate them. But like, the Destiel fans are casuals, so we don't care if we alienate them. That's like sort of how it feels a lot of the time.
I suppose when I watch Supernatural, like, I do tend to just go, and that's just not something I'm going to think about throughout this journey of watching Supernatural. Which, now that you've pointed it out, I'm like, I remember that okay, like, yeah, this is like, people will see this and be like, haha.
And they're not technically related in this one.
I do think it's massively unfortunate because I'll talk about it in a scene later, but like, I did start crying in this episode because I was like,
oh,
and they're literally brothers, and they're like literally siblings, and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And like, you know, it's like, I don't know, like, sometimes I forget that Sam and Dean are like, their family. And like, that actually does mean something. Like, that's not just a word that's, because like, Supernatural throws the concept of
hashtag
family.
SPN family.
Yeah, like, they throw it around so much that a lot of times it loses its meaning. And this is like the first time in a long time that I am able to look at Sam and Dean and go, they are siblings, and that means something to them and to me. And so, like, now that I'm like, oh yeah, and people think this is an incest thing, I am like, oh, come, like, because it's such a good, like, episode in terms of, like, their, like, family relationship. And I just think it's unfortunate that, you know, people look at that and then turn it into,
Yeah. And that Sarah Gamble looks at that as like I want to give those people something.
Cater to him, baby.
Ugh. I wish this was more of a Sam episode. He's so main character coded here. We haven't had him having like prophetic dreams in so long, and now like it's back, baby.
Yeah.
He's having visions. He's asking off-putting questions in the elevator. Like, he's so YA protag.
Exactly. But he's not gay enough. The thing is, like, with Dean, they can do this, like, we're emasculating him, he's doing gay shit. It's funny, isn't it? But I think the moment they do it with Sam, they're like, okay, that's not actually funny. Like, I think they realize that it's not funny when they do it to Sam. Because Sam is, like, fine with that shit. Like, imagine like, this episode, but it's a different, like, they switch roles, and Sam is the corporate guy drinking rice milk coffee and, I don't know, talking about Project Runway.
Yeah, I just feel like good for him.
And it's like, damn, he's living his life. Like, okay.
Yeah, this is what he wants. Good.
Yeah. Like, they realize that, like, actually, that's a completely fine way to be a man. Okay. And so, like, they need to do it to Dean.
Yeah. They had Dean go to Stanford.
They literally
the lesson of this episode is that going to Stanford makes you gay. And, like, it does.
They literally said, and Dean Winchester, you will live your life as if you're Sam, and that automatically makes you gay. Like, okay. So what does this say about Sam Winchester? Have we thought about that?
Well, apparently he's not either, so...
So, Sam is back in his cubicle. He is still doing the customer service thing, but now he gaff about it. He really is just on the phone saying his usual script while he's drawing vampires.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, first of all, drawings, beautiful.
Yeah, no, wait, so, like, why is Sam Wesson so good at drawing when we seen Sam's fucking sketch artist attempt in bedtime stories?
No, but the thing is, like, we've seen Sam draw a tree, and that was a nice tree.
That's
pretty
true.
decent. So, like, is Sam
so
only
he can draw
capable
things
of
from his
drawing
dreams
nice
really
things
well.
from, like, his dreams? But if it's a guy in front of him going, and he has a Wile E. Coyote tattoo, he's like, I'm lost. I don't know what that is. I don't know what an arm is, even.
Yeah, he's so 10th Doctor during Family of Blood-coded.
While he's doing this, he goes up to his computer, goes to the website. Wait, I'm going to actually go to that scene so I can see what the fuck that website is.
Yeah, this is a Twilight reference, right?
Yeah. He is in Search the Web, and he is searching the web for vampire.
He capitalizes vampire in his search, which is so important to me.
Sam is typing vampire capital V in Search the Web. Like, a bunch of results come out, and it's literally just like, all about vampires. History of vampires. What's a vampire? Like, what? Like, I mean, the thing is, he saw them in his head, you know? Like, he knows the specific type of vampire that he needs to look for. Like, he knows that shit doesn't look like Dracula.
Yeah.
So, like, just look up. And also, honestly, if I was Sam Winchester and I had no prior knowledge to supernatural creatures and what they look like in the supernatural universe whatsoever, and I see, like, just some guy with fangs, I'll be like, I don't know what that is. Probably not a vampire, though.
That's true.
I mean, we've talked
yeah, because
about
those
this,
guys
but,
don't
like,
look like Dracula. So, like...
No, they don't go blah, 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 or whatever that fucking Hotel Transylvania vampire says. I've watched that
He
movie
said,
so many
Jonathan,
times.
you are fucking my daughter.
Yeah. You better be. Is that the one?
It has yeast in it, right?
No,
It's like-
no, I think that's the girl one. The one that's like,
Yeah,
I'm
the
a lesbian, you better be.
is part of the girl one. It has yeast in it.
We will just say anything in this podcast. There's literally one that's like, forum. Are goths vampires? Which is so funny to me. Because they literally did, like, gothify the vampires in, like, the first episode where they have vampires in this show.
True.
Sam just keeps on looking around. He hears, like, a little distressed noise coming from Paul's cubicle. He stands up and, like, looks over and, like, is like, hey, what happened to you? And Paul's like, my screen is just frozen. My entire day's work is just completely gone. And Sam's, like, trying to be like, well, did you back it up? And, like, I know that this is supposed to be, like, and Paul is being so short with Sam right now. Like, he's really pissed. And he's being, like, very annoyed at Sam questioning him like this when it's a completely reasonable question. But honestly, if somebody asked me that, I was like, fuck you. Like, you think you know better than me? Is it your data that was lost, you fucking asshole?
You think if I had backed it up, I wouldn't be screaming and crying right now, obviously.
Fuck you, dude.
Oh, also earlier, Ian got an email to be called up to HR.
Oh, yeah. Paul stays behind in the office, and he is just entering, like, a code into the computer again and again and again and again. But, yeah, there are no files found. And he just goes, all that work gone, failed. And, like, there's, like, something that possesses him. Not literally, but, like, you know, cold air, blah, blah, blah. And then he gets up, walks out, and there you have it. He sticks his head into the microwave.
The kills this episode are pretty fun.
It's
like,
pretty good. Yeah.
They're like, I'd say a bit grislier than like at least the most recent Supernatural episodes so far. But like, they're all like quite creative. I enjoy them. We get to see the electricity zapping along his forehead a bit, and there's like little spots of like blood that form before. And then we like fully see Ian's bleeding out.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is like I have that fear of like the elevator cutting me in half.
Oh, the elevator scene. Yes, that was fun.
And I don't know where I got it from. And now I know.
Maybe here. Yeah.
No, I mean, I haven't told you that I also have the fear of like being beheaded by the fucking trunk of the car.
Yeah, the trunk of the car because of Supernatural.
I will have deep-rooted fears in life, and I'll be like, I think I just got that from nowhere. And then I watch an episode of Supernatural, and I'm like, nope, I got it from Supernatural.
That you did. We cut to the next day, and, you know, people are taking Paul's body out, and Sam and Dean are both watching this happen. And they look at each other briefly. And Dean's like, something about this doesn't seem right to, like, a fellow coworker. So he goes back to his office and he starts looking at the file for Paul. I guess Easter egg is that it says his manager is Marianne Leo. Hi, Marianne Leo.
Marianne Leo, yeah.
Is Marianne Leo also one of Sam's phone contacts?
Yeah, I think, like, back in the day.
I'd like to believe they're the same people. It says that Paul has a retirement party scheduled for 2 weeks out, and Dean's like, huh. Meanwhile, at the IT place, Sam is talking to Ian about the same thing. He goes, why would someone kill themselves 2 weeks before they were supposed to retire? Like, he was 2 weeks from freedom. He should have been happy, right? Which, like, I mean, honestly, like, retiring is a big life thing. Like, it's possible that you could be, like...
You just get
like,
stressed out.
And now,
you don't
like,
have enough
I
savings.
won't have anything to do. Yeah, I don't have the savings that I need. I don't know what my purpose in life will be because, like, it's been, like, worn away by this IT job for so many years. Like, I get it.
Yeah, and, like, I think this one, like, really reiterates what I was saying earlier, that, like, Sam's, like, when you're working, your only life is your job. And then, like, because that's, like, you know, the point of the episode. And, yeah, and here Sam is like, but she should be done being miserable because he's getting out of the miserable job.
Yeah, and he has freedom now.
Can we infer something about Sam's psychology from that one? That, like, I mean, for a long time, he did think of, like, hunting as, like, and after this is over, I can go back to my normal life.
And that's sort of stopped being a possibility.
Yeah, but it is what he does, kinda.
Mm-hmm.
In
like in season 8.
In season 15.
His son has a fucking anti-possession tattoo on. Aren't we supposed to think that they're both still hunting on the side?
I don't think so. I think he just got divorced with his wife. I mean, everybody has pointed to hell and back that, like, the wife is not in none of the family pictures. To him, and he's like, oh, I can protect my family, like, this entire time, it's fine. And then they get divorced, and the wife gets the kid in the divorce, and he's like, oh, shit, now I have to give him a fucking tattoo, because I won't be in the house protecting him. Well, unfortunate.
Yeah. What did Sam say the last time they had a conversation about retiring? Because they have had one, like, not that far away.
I think Sam said, like, that's just not an option for me anymore or something.
Does he?
That's past me.
Right. The important thing about Ian now is that he's actually wearing the uniform now. In the past, he never did. And then he won't engage with Sam in this conversation. He says he doesn't have time for this. He's working. It's important. Ian just ignores him and then gets called up to floor 22 to speak to a manager. And this manager is Dean Smith. You know, Dean just tells Ian, hey, like, yesterday you filled out this form, but there are a few errors, so I'm just gonna walk you through this. And Ian starts freaking out. He's like, oh no, oh my god, like, I can't believe I did this. And Dean's like, hey, it's fine. I can just, like, help you refile this. And Ian's like, no, it affected profits. I failed Sandover. I failed the company. How could I do this? Incredibly funny. Sorry that he is going to kill himself about this.
The thing is, like, I didn't remember who the ghost was this episode. And I saw this scene and I was like, damn, who's fucking haunting these people? Like, the ghosts of corporate past and, like, literally.
Yeah.
The ghost of corporate past is hunting these fucking people.
Ian runs out of the room and Dean follows him to the bathroom. Ian's still freaking out. And then there's, like, a brief moment of cold air. And then all the faucets and all the soap dispensers come on. And
This
the
is a
soap
really
is
fun
like
visual.
a dark pink, so it like sort of looks like blood, and it's like pooling and like spilling onto the ground. It's very neat.
Because the thing is, like, it's pink. When it starts falling, you
done
barely
in raw
even
blood.
register that's the visual it was doing, and then it starts pooling, and it's like, oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. Mary Ann Liu slayed with this one. Unless this is not Mary Ann Liu. And also her name isn't Mary Ann Liu. Am I saying that right? Is it Mary Ann Liu?
Mary Ann Liu.
Leo.
Leo.
Slay. It's slay.
Though, I mean, okay, all of the faucets and all the soap dispensers come on. I think it would be more fun if it was just, like, one by one as, like, the ghost passes and triggers the motion sensors. But, like, that's not what's happening. The ghost is just turning them all on for fun. Ian pulls a pencil out of his pocket and then stabs himself in the neck, and blood spurts out, and he falls to the ground, and he's bleeding so much, and Dean sees the ghost in the mirror, but there's no one in the room, and Dean's, like, freaking out, and then, like, Ian's, like, he makes a sound on the floor, so Dean realizes that he's still alive, and then he calls for help.
Yeah.
Pencil neck stab, pretty neat. I feel like an actual pencil would break if you tried that, though, but I don't know. I'm not testing it.
I'm not testing it either, but, like, those things are shockingly, sharp.
Well, that was probably Sam's only friend. Sorry, Sam. He'll make a new one. He's good at that in this setting.
Exactly. We're outside. Dean's being investigated or whatever. He's giving his, like, statement to the police officer, and like while all this is happening, Sam, like, passes by and they catch each other's eyes, and it kind of, like, sets Dean aback.
I wish Sam had more of a reaction to the fact that it is Ian specifically.
Yeah, he did gaff. He never mentions that it's Ian again. No mention of anything.
That was his best friend, and he really did just let him go.
Yeah. Because it was easier, period. Like, there's nothing else. He's back in his cubicle. Totally unfazed. Like, none of his actions betray that he is affected by this whatsoever.
Well, he has even less energy than he usually does, but yeah. Not much there.
He picks up the ringing phone, and yeah, it's Dean telling him, come to my office.
They make a point to show that he's rebuttoning his shirt.
Yeah. I did find that pretty funny.
What was
Why
that?
are you doing this?
I mean, okay, the point is that he changed his clothes because he got blood all over them from Ian, right? So this is, like, the same day. But, like, it's still, like, okay, is this, like, the world's tamest fan service? Like, congrats, I guess. By rebuttoning his shirt, I mean, like, 3 buttons. Like, you're not seeing anything.
Yeah. Sam shows up, and Dean asks, like, who the hell are you? And Sam says, I'm not sure I know, which is
hell yeah, baby. God, he's
answer.
So main character coded. I love him.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. He says, I'm Sam Wesson. I started here 3 weeks ago. Dean also did. He, like, started 3 weeks ago, right?
What was Cass doing during these 3 weeks when his boss was like, I'm putting your favorite little guy into a fun little hamster wheel to watch him spin?
I don't know. He was like, he seems a bit sad. Maybe we should put Sam in there also. He recommended that they put Sam in there also, yeah.
Yeah, though, I mean, if Cass suggested that they put Sam in there, I think he's still on the make Sam stop doing demon blood shit agenda. So, like, I feel like we could have gotten more. Of that, yeah, because this episode should have been about, like, giving Dean the worst corporate job ever and giving Sam the best corporate job ever so that Dean leaves but Sam doesn't.
But, like, you have to remember that Zechariah knows.
About, the full plan, including the Lucifer vessel. We're to presume. Or, do we know that because he traps Dean in the green room later? I have no clue what that is, but, like...
I'm not sure if actually he knows what the full plan is. But, like, he knows that they need to keep Dean in that room and let Sam do his thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, like,
Makes sense.
cats do that. Lilith is the final seal. Sam kills Lilith, the end begins, or whatever that line is.
When was he told this?
Who's Dean?
When was Cass told this? Like, I feel, isn't he, like, pro-killing Lilith?
He was told in, like, 420.
Right, he lets Sam out of the panic room, right?
Yeah.
And when the levee breaks or something?
That's
whatever. We'll get to it when we get to it.
No, but, like, he was gonna tell Dean, right? Like, he shows up in Dean's dream in 420, and that's why he gets booted up back in heaven, and, you know, Dean says something about that. A line.
Yeah, I'm really curious about how long Cass has known, because the whole, like, they don't tell me much. I just know that our fate rests with you. Like, I think that's genuine. I think he doesn't know about the Michael Vessel stuff in 416.
I do genuinely think it was 420. Like, the moment he knew, he was like, I need to tell Dean. And then they yeeted his ass back up into heaven.
Maybe Destiel is real.
I told you. I have been telling you.
Sam was just put in because Dean needed a push. I think that's all it was. Yeah, as we already said, like, they knew, like, Sam would actually want to get back to the hunting life, given where he is right now. And they don't need to convince him of anything, so he's just there to be a manic pixie dream girl type.
They start talking about the ghost. Yeah, at some point, Sam goes, oh, you really saw the ghost, didn't you? I mean, all these suicides, what if they aren't suicides? I mean, what if they're something not natural? I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I did chuckle at this.
Did a bit of a giggle, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they start, like, talking in earnest of, like, what's going on. And Sam is like, yeah, I was dreaming about, you know, ghosts. And then suddenly there's a real ghost. What does that mean? And Dean asks, like, oh, so, like, you have special visions? You're some kind of psychic? And I love that even in this universe where Dean doesn't know the implications of that and, like, doesn't think of monsters, blah, blah, you know, like, doesn't have the weave of information he has in, like, his usual life with his usual memories. He's still so fucking judgmental about the psychic situation. Like, I love it. I think it's so funny. Yeah, and Sam apparently has been doing research. And the research is he hacked into these two guys' emails. He saw that they both received an email from HR telling them to go to room 1444. So that's 1444. Which is, you know, in Feng Shui. How do you pronounce that? I still have no idea how to pronounce
Feng Shui.
Feng Shui. In Feng Shui, that's bad. That's bad. It's a bad floor and that's a bad room number. Let's kick the door down, baby. No, Sam literally does kick the door down. They go to the room. Oh, no. They have, like, a little conversation first where, yeah, like, they were like, oh, should we do it? And Dean was like, oh, you're right, like, it's a bit too late, like, I shouldn't bother you or something. And Sam just looks at him and goes, I'm dying to check this out. And Dean's like, okay, let's go, hell yeah. And then they do. Sam kicks down the door.
Hey, quick question. So the ghost was sending emails?
Like, this guy was like, I'm the ghost of corporate fast, but you know what? We need to, there's, like, you know, technological upgrades. We need to, you know, to strive as a company. We need to adjust with the modern era. The times. Exactly. Before they enter, we see, like, a guy who's just there. Like,
who got called in.
Yeah. As Sam barges into the door, they fight off this guy, and eventually Dean gets a hold of a pipe or whatever.
A wrench?
A wrench. He gets a hold of a wrench, and then he, like, just swipes it over the ghost of corporate past. I need to stop calling this ghost of corporate past. He literally is though. Like he looks like it too.
Yeah.
He looks like Scrooge
McDuck. He's got that oil baron vibe.
Yeah. What is the real name of Scrooge? Because I cannot keep on calling it Scrooge McDuck in my head.
No, that is his name.
His name in real life is Scrooge McDuck.
Wait, do you mean the DuckTales Scrooge or the Christmas Carol Scrooge?
Yeah. What's his name?
In A Christmas Carol?
Yeah.
Scrooge is his last name. His first name is Ebenezer.
That's such... Well, we should just keep calling him Scrooge McDuck the person. Well, he literally does look like Scrooge McDuck the person. Like, for fucking real.
Dean doesn't want to drink a beer, and he got rid of all the cars in his house. We're doing the same thing again. Wait, did we skip the salad? When did he eat the salad? Does it even matter that he ate a salad? Probably not.
Well, he ate a salad. Let's say it here. At some point, he eats a salad. I do think it's interesting that the way they shoot that scene is like focus on his lips chewing, and then focus on his eyes that are like dead empty. And it's like, so you're telling us that like eating veggies is like not fulfilling? What's the point here?
Yeah, I guess, that is what they're saying.
I do understand that like that's what they're saying, and then combining it with the juice cleanse is like also saying something about diet culture. But like the bigger context of the episode is just it's unsatisfying to be a homo. Like
he doesn't even go to the health club.
Exactly. They couldn't let him go to the health club because if he went to the health club, he would be like, it is satisfying to be a homo. Like,
he wouldn't go back to being a hunter.
Yeah, he would continue being a gay employee.
Though I do think that he wouldn't be that into casual sex.
I'm right.
They're talking. They seem to have had a good time on that hunt. Dean says a good job kicking down that door. That was very gently. Slay, I guess. Also,
they're both like complimenting each other. Like they're both cannot believe that the other is good at this.
Like, we're really good at this.
It's not even like a, oh my god, you're great. It's like, why are you great? Like, what's wrong?
That's true.
That's so funny to me.
I mean, every day they've gotten dressed and they've looked at their giant bulging muscles in their fucking office wear and they didn't think about it at all. So I guess this is their thinking about it. Sam starts basically saying what I think are probably Taylor Swift lyrics where he says, I just can't shake this feeling, like, I don't belong here. And later he says that, like, he hates this town or whatever. I'm pretty sure she says that shit.
That's so funny that you say this is Taylor Swift lyrics. Because this line specifically, look, it's more than that. I don't like my job. I don't like this town. I don't like my clothes. I don't like my own last name. It's literally Dancing in the Dark's Bruce Springsteen.
Yeah.
Like, I want to change my clothes, my hair, my face. I ain't getting nowhere, just living in a dump like this. Like, he's so Bruce Springsteen Dancing in the Dark core.
Well, good for him.
It feels like I should be doing something else. Well, as Bruce Springsteen said, there's something happening somewhere. Baby, I just know that there is.
And he says there's just something in my blood. Like I was destined for something different. Fun stuff.
Fun stuff.
And Dean says that he doesn't believe in destiny, just in dealing with what's right in front of us. And is that also their attitudes about the apocalypse? I guess it's Dean's attitude about 407. Like, yeah. I don't care about the seal, I care about this town, these people are real. So yeah. And then Dean says, we do what I do best, Sammy. Research. You're not the lore boy. Don't claim that. Exactly. And they do a sort of tortured thing where Sam's like, did you just call me Sammy? And it goes on for way too long. Dean does research. And
I actually really love this scene.
I love it. I did not expect the ghost facers to be back, and they are, and it's wonderful.
They're back, and they literally are doing a step-by-step how to kill a ghost, vlog, basically.
It's great. Because, like, they know now. They learned.
Yeah, and like their info is right.
It's wonderful. Like,
Yeah.
so like the humor is that Dean thinks that these guys are like great
Super
and like
cool, yeah.
not
oh my
losers.
God, they're for real, yeah.
Yeah, like, look, these are like for real actual ghost hunters. Like, look at this. And it's a video of Ed and Harry of Ghostfacers fame. You know, doing their bits, saying that they know how to solve your ghost issue. Yeah, we sort of intersperse, like, their advice with what Sam and Dean do. So, like, first it's like, figure out what you're up against. And Sam has found an article about the death of the founder of Sandover, who died in 1916 and was very devoted to his work. Sam says no wife, no kids, which, is that what we're supposed to think about Dean and the you get to fornicate with the women line from Zachariah later? He can't fuck because he's too busy working.
I mean, he also has no wife and kids, like, in the underworld, like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, maybe this guy was just aromantic. Diversity win. This, like, capitalist shill is aromantic. But yeah.
Exactly.
So that's him, and they used to say that he was the company and his very blood pumped through the building, which we don't get.
Disgusting.
We don't get later. I was so ready for, like, actual bits of his blood to be in the walls of the building because, like, it says that he oversees all the construction of, like, all his projects, right? So, like, maybe he got, like, injured during construction and then some of his blood got trapped inside the walls. But no, they're just saying this as a figure of speech. Boo!
Yeah, they need to remove
Everyone should read 13 Stories
whatever.
by Johnny Sims. What'd you say?
They need to remove, like, a load-bearing, what do you call that? The, like, fucking beam or whatever.
Like a beam or something?
Yeah, they need to remove the, like, foundational post and make the entire building fall to pieces to kill this ghost.
So true. And apparently the last time people started killing themselves a bunch in the building was in 1929. There was 17 suicides. And this is when they're like, oh, he wakes up during times of economic downturn. And the worst time we've seen during the Great Depression is now, during the housing crisis. It's
lovely.
Really funny. I mean, I'm sure it felt realer during the time, just like saying that demons did 9/11 while they posed as Homeland Security, which was also new at the time, felt realer at the time, but like, and I understand that like this was like quite bad and like real people were affected by this.
Yeah.
Well, it's just it's a silly thing because Supernatural doesn't usually engage with like current events in this way.
It is fascinating, like, because, like, you know, Sam and Dean are, like, working class in Supernatural.
Yeah.
And it's, like, because Supernatural does not interact with, like, politics.
The market economy as is.
Like, the current, like, economic whatever of the United States. This is, like, our first mention of the economy, I think.
Yeah, no, it really is.
And it's, like, during a situation where they are in a position, I mean, Dean is in a position to care because his portfolio's in the sewers. And, like, I don't know, is that something? Are they saying something with that? That, like, if you're working class, whatever.
Oh, like, since they're already living outside of the, like, market economy, like, they aren't affected by these things.
Affected by it.
Meanwhile, all these cuck office workers, like, as long as something bad happens in the government, there goes all their money. I don't know.
I mean,
I think the idea is just that they'd be grateful for the job stability that they have here, so it would make it harder for them to leave, or like that's something that's affecting Dean.
I mean, specifically, well, I think what's happening is that Supernatural just purports to be like a for all Americans show, and so they don't want to get into the politics of anything. Which is fascinating because the show is intensely political in its implications. But okay.
Yeah, I do always get so stuck on the fact that Cass didn't kill that guy because he was a homophobe. He killed him because he was homophobic and gay. Like, he was like, I hate... About? He says, I can't stand hypocrites.
Oh,
like,
yeah?
God's TL. Like, the point is that the guy says that being gay is a sin and then he has secret gay sex. It's not because he's a homophobe, it's because he's lying to his congregation. That's why he gets killed. Like, they wouldn't even say that it's bad to be homophobic.
I thought you were talking about the Gimme Shelter kid who got killed like in a hate crime for being gay. And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Well, yeah.
Yeah, Supernatural will not take a stance on anything except it takes stances every second that it exists unknowingly. Right, so Sandover's trying to help the company by, like getting the employees that aren't very good and then making them into model employees. Bro, the turnover that you're creating, I feel like it's more expensive for the company to hire somebody new. Like, you could just fire them if you think they're not good. Also, like, if they're still here, like they have to pay out the life insurance, which, I mean, yeah. Anyway.
What is the regularization, status in the United States?
The regularization of what?
Like, if I sit off jobs, like, when are you regularized?
What's regularized?
It's when you start getting benefits.
Oh, yeah. I think it probably differs company from company, but for me it was as soon as I started.
Oh, okay.
I think we signed up, so it took like a month or so.
Yeah, here you get your benefits after 6 months. For like call center, what Sam's doing right now. That job that I applied to, I was gonna get regularized after 6 months. And that is if you're not a contractual worker. The joke I was gonna make is, I don't know, maybe those guys aren't regularized.
Yeah. Maybe so.
Well, maybe they aren't. So. I mean, Paul is definitely regular.
Yeah, he was
whatever.
2 weeks away from
retirement. Yeah. No. Ian, probably a new kid. Yeah.
No.
Wants to fuck the Jamilf even.
Yeah.
And he didn't even get to fuck that Gamilf. So sad.
Yeah, I mean, he could have in the time in between. Like, there was a day that passed. 2 days, maybe.
Yeah. His swagger was so strong, he was able to do it in a day.
Yeah. And Sam also finds that the 14th floor, and specifically the room 1444, was where Sandover's office was. The Ghostfacers then explain how salt is like Bernie acid to ghosts, and iron also helps repel them. Ed also explains that we learned this trick from those useless douchebags that we hate, the Winchesters. So, like, Zachariah does say later that, like, this is their world. He just, like, erased Sam and Dean's memories and then put them in, like, a real company.
In the ether. Yeah. This is just, like, in the internet for real.
Yeah. And if either of them looked up Sam Winchester or Dean Winchester, then they would get, like, the FBI's most wanted things. So that's why their last names are changed.
With Chuck, it's the Winchester Gospel, right? But he doesn't say Winchester in the book.
Oh, yeah, he used a different name. So that people don't think he's writing serial killer fan fiction.
That's so funny. Like, imagine you're, like, on the internet and you watch, like, a news TV show and it's like serial killer Sam and Dean Winchester, and then you find this book that's like Sam and Dean Winchester, and there's like an extended portion of Dean Winchester making lovey-dovey eyes with an angel, and it's like, what is this serial killer? They made an OC who's an angel. Like, what is going on?
Yeah,
they literally did that in Supernatural with Colette though. Like, for real.
They did.
Yeah.
And Sam and Dean are both like, well, we can't get a gun, so... Finally, Ed and Harry talk about how you have to burn the remains. I guess you don't have to salt and burn them, because Sam did not salt those gloves. The salt was just for fun?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we talk constantly in the past, like, what does the salt do? Like, is it like a whatever?
Nothing.
Apparently nothing. Apparently it does nothing. You don't even need to put gas on that thing. It'll just burn like it has gas on it even.
Yeah. And then they also say that sometimes you have to dig up the body. But Sandover was cremated. And then Ed and Harry say, like, if the deceased was cremated, then you should just look for some other, like, genetic material that's hanging around. And that's the end of the episode. Of the Ghostfacers episode.
Yeah, I do love that Harry and Ed are, like, obviously very annoying people. But, like, this is, like, actually useful stuff.
Yeah,
like,
this
it's
is,
actually
like,
useful.
Like, probably better than anything Sam and Dean have done so far.
Yeah. Like, this is, like, actually helping people in a way where they can do it themselves. Because, like, there's not always gonna be a hunter around. I mean, hunters only come to a place where people have already died. Because that's how they know that there's something there, because people have
but, like,
already
if
died.
you're just, like, having, like, cold air in your house.
Guy, you're like, okay, what do I do? And then you look it up, and Harry and Ed are here to help you.
Yeah, because, like, they were, like, Dean found them, like, not, it didn't take too long, so, like, they're doing a decent job at being high in the search results.
Also, like, I don't know, I mean, we've talked about this, like, who is Sam and Dean protecting by hiding this from the world?
Exactly.
And it's like, you're protecting the people who will not be affected by it so that they can sleep better at night. But the people who will be affected by it, who will be attacked by ghosts and vampires
because of that,
will die. And it's like, okay, but how are we weighing those things? And apparently to Sam and Dean, very heavily on the side of the people who will just not be affected by it ever.
I'm still so stuck on how that guy in Sex and Violence declared his specific intent to kill himself for killing his wife. And they find out it's a siren, and they don't go back and tell him or anything. They just skip town, and, like, we know that guy's gonna kill himself. And if they had told him, maybe, like, it'd be difficult to believe, but if they had some kind of evidence, then, like, I don't know. Like, it's worth giving it a shot, but they were like, we don't give a fuck, and then they go.
And also, they got sirened. So they know what it feels like. They know what it does to your mind. I feel like they can, convey to that guy well enough that, like, I know how you felt, because that's exactly how I felt, and I know because I actually did feel it.
Yeah. But apparently having people sleep easier at night is more important. I'm sure some hunters hide it because they want to feel useful. They're like, if the government knows about this, then I don't have a job anymore, and then I have to confront the fact that I have no life.
They will militarize the hunters, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, hunters do see themselves as that. The meme image of the soldier, like... holding, like, his hands out over a sleeping child's bed while, like, bloody knives stab him. Thank you, Ed and Harry. Like, I know they're mostly just doing this because they want a movie deal or whatever. But, like, you know what? Like, good. Good. You should get a movie deal. Like, more people should know.
Exactly. Sam and Dean are, like, back in Sandover, Iron and Co., whatever. And they say that, like, we should make our cell phones into walkie-talkies in case we get separated, which is so fun. That's so fun. Can you still do that in a modern phone? I don't think so. But, like, how does it work? Like, do you like flip a button in, like, that old thing and it turns into a walkie-talkie?
I guess.
The term walkie-talkie is so cute. It sounds like a term we'll make up on, like, this podcast. Like, it's a lappy-tappy, it's a walkie-talkie. Like, okay, it's so cute. And it's because they're walking and they're gonna be talking. Their plan is to go to the 1444 floor room and look at stuff to figure out what the fuck is left behind. And yeah, as they're looking, like, Sam is closer to the door, like, right beside the door, and Dean is, like, deeper into the room, just looking through the shelves. And then suddenly a guard comes in and, like, obviously sees Sam immediately, and Dean just ducks out and hides.
And this guard wasn't possessed or anything, right? Like,
this guard was just doing this for the laughs, yeah.
Like, because he acts so creepy, and I was like, there's gotta be something going on here ghost-wise, but, like, I don't think there was. But okay, there was the cold air in the elevator before the guy gets killed by the elevator. But, like, it also just felt like a regular death? I don't know. I'm confused about Sandover's role in this guard's life.
I was gonna say, like, the other people who were killed were possessed or whatever.
Oh yeah, they got zapped in the brain with his electricity thing and it changed them.
But, like, the thing that you can connect to the guard is, like, so he died, therefore, blah, blah, blah. But, like, those people, like, killed themselves because they were incompetent in their job or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
This guy, like, just dies a very unfortunate death.
Yeah.
And this death is amazing, though. Like, I mean, it's horrible, as I said.
No, it's great,
like,
though.
I still think about it. It's horrible. I mean, what happens is, like, the guard, like, brings Sam out. And in the elevator, like, gets stuck in, like, in between floors. So it's, like, only half of the door is, like, up, whatever. And so the guard climbs out. And he climbs out, like, already. Like, he's already out. And he's telling Sam, like, come on, like, just climb out. And Sam's like, I'm not doing that. And he's like, just come on. And Sam's like, nope. The guard sticks his head in. And then, like, the elevator turns back on.
Yep.
And it slices him in half. And there's, like, a wonderful blood splatter on Sam's shirt and face.
It's great.
It's resonant. Like, you remember it. Which is obviously, because I remember it very intensely.
Mm-hmm.
That's still crazy, because, like, that is, like, a very specific... If there is, like, any other media, if you're a listener and you're listening to this, God knows why, it's so long. And there's, like, any other media where this kind of thing happens, like, tell me.
I'm sure it's happened somewhere.
Yeah, and, like, I'm asking people, like, please tell me the stuff it has happened to. Because, like, I'm still not 100% convinced that this is the source of that fear.
Okay,
I'm like, that's too convenient. Like, so many of my fears in life are already rooted in supernatural. Let's find something else.
So much of your life is rooted in supernatural, though.
It's true. Why? It's crazy.
You watched it when you were at an impressionable age.
I still think about the fact that in our Good Omens, like, end their podcast when they asked about Cass, I literally said, he's like a brother to me. In fact, I've known him longer than my sister. And it's like, why did I say that?
Because it's true.
I mean, it's true. My little sister is, like, 8 years old, and I've known Cass longer than her. But what a crazy comparison to make. Eventually, Sam and Dean meet up in, like, this, like, display room where gloves are, like, in this glass case.
Yeah.
And so they smash in that glass case.
Oh, the gloves are Sandover's. The display room is like a little museum to the company.
They smash in that thing, and as soon as the glass gets broken, like, cold air, Sandover, I suppose, since I said I would stop calling him Ghost of Corporate Past. Well, he shows up, and then they start, like, doing this little bit. I mean, it's actually really fun. Where, like, Sam throws the poker, and Dean's like, "Wow, good one."
Yeah.
And then Dean gets to do it, and Sam's like, "That's good." And then they do it together, and they do it one at a time. Like, it's so fun. They're having so much fun. You know, eventually, because they're Sam and Dean, they get their ass beat by the ghost. And there's, like, this really fun blood trickle from Dean's scalp down to his, like, forehead by his eyebrow. Real nice. It's been a while since we got a good, like, Sam and Dean blood on their face that's, you know, their blood, and it's important to me.
Yeah, they were, like, depriving them of their blood on their face rations so that Cass could look so hot during On the Head of a Pin.
Exactly. Eventually, Dean is, like, cornered, and he's about to get zapped in the brain, and Sam is like, oh, should I go and save Dean, or should I go and save Dean for real by burning these gloves? And he does the second, burns the gloves. Mm-hmm. It's over. And they were like, wow, we're so cool. And they are. They are. Yeah. Honestly, I think they are this episode.
I think they're fun.
I think because they approach it with an earnestness, specifically Dean, because like Dean in like real life is like, oh, I'm so cool, but you're the one who thinks that of me. You're supposed to be the one who thinks that of me. And like obviously like Dean IRL like thinks he's cool too, but like it's so like a performance kind of way, you know?
Yeah.
Like, did it look good like in the movies, as you said in Mystery Spot? And here, it is genuinely just Dean being like, and I think it's cool because I'm doing it and I think I'm cool. And like, I feel like a lot of the other, like, how am I perceived? Blah, 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 gets, you know, gets removed from that. And I think mostly that's just because it's, you know, it's not new to Dean anymore. But it is nice to see Dean, like, be enthused by what he's doing. Yeah. Which is like, yeah, it's a pretty cool thing. With, like, an earnestness that he doesn't really have in his usual time.
He also just thinks that it's cool that it works. Like, no way, there's this guy and he disappears when I do this.
Yeah, like, whoa, for real.
Yeah, because, like, I feel like it doesn't really register to him that this is a matter of life and death, even though he saw, like, 2 people kill themselves. So, like, it's more of, like, this is, like, a fun extracurricular.
I mean, he said, hell of a workout.
Yeah. Which, like, I guess it is sort of surprising that Dean Smith would see Ian stab himself to death with a pencil in front of him, and then also be almost killed by that ghost choking him, and, like, not be particularly fazed by it.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I guess that's the old Dean resilience coming in.
It's so funny when Zachariah was like, damn, why the long face? Like, what's up with you, man? Hopefully you're not thinking of quitting. And it's like, the dude just saw like a guy
3 people died at your company this week.
In the fucking throat. Like, okay.
Like, that could be a reason to quit, I think. If this place makes like 2 people that miserable, and then also that security guard made a bad choice that ended very badly. We're back in Dean's office, having a conversation afterwards. And Sam and Dean both say that they've never had this much fun in their life. Oh, hey, doesn't Dean say that in Free to Be You and Me? Or I've never laughed so hard?
Yeah,
or,
in years.
Yeah.
He says in years. I haven't laughed this hard in years.
Okay, not the same thing.
Damn. We're gonna watch this episode and we're gonna be like, Dean and Cass are in love and so cute. And also Supernatural is like so bad. And it is. Both things are true.
Yeah.
And Sam is also there.
Sam's important to me.
I mean, it's so funny because, like, that episode, like, I think somebody described it once as, like, Dean and Cass are having a little date, and Sam is, like, fighting for his life behind a bar counter, and that literally is what happens that episode.
Okay, so, yeah, this conversation, I think, is a bit too soon and a bit forced, but I get that they have, like, a time limit on the episode and they have to get here eventually. So, you know, Dean's just, like, laying back, having a casual, fun time, and Sam says, like, we should keep doing this. Like, for real, like, there could be other ghosts out there. We could help a lot of people. And Dean isn't taking this seriously. I do think that it's interesting that, like, this is where Sam, with, like, his memories wiped, goes to for the first thing. Like, let's do this so that we can, like, help a lot of people, and I know there's more ghosts killing people out there. Because they've been trying to tell us that Sam doesn't really want to save the world for the saving the world's sake. But, like, this Sam does seem to, like, be of that mindset. Yeah. Also, okay, there's still demon blood in him right now. It was just a memory wipe. So, like, it's not like they're trying to say something about how that changes how he thinks. Though I guess he's been off it for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Ugh, I wish this was a more Sam-centric episode. I want to see, like, Sam, like, in this role, like, going through, like, demon blood withdrawal and, like, not knowing what's going on. Like, isn't that interesting? Yeah. That plus the dreams plus everything else. Ugh. But yeah, I don't know. In this episode, Sam does care about saving the world for saving the world's sake. Yeah, is it like what, like his life, like, because hunting has always been like so negative for both of them, like he's gotten really jaded in his regular life about saving the world, and he cares more about like the power rush of drinking demon blood and things like that. But like if you take those negative associations away, you get to like the good person core of him. Is that the point?
I don't even know. I mean, like, the whole Pamela deal was like, your intentions are bad, which
right.
is like, we have railed against that notion, but I will continue to do so.
Yeah. Dean's like, you're crazy. Like, you want us to quit our jobs and like hit the road? Like, how would we get by? With stolen credit cards, eating diner food drenched in saturated fats, sharing a crap motel room every night, and at this point it's just getting to be a bit much. Like, okay, I get it.
Sam goes, that's all just details.
Yes.
Which, oh god, like, it does make me feel emo that, like, Dean here is, like, so fickle.
Yeah, like, he wants health insurance, is what he's saying.
In real life, we don't see Dean say these things, and it's just like,
well, in Yellow
later
Fever
on in the show, yeah, but like that, that's a different thing also. Like, that's Dean, like, uninhibited by like whatever.
Well, it's just Dean with high anxiety.
That's true. He was uninhibited by anti-anxiety meds or whatever. But like later on in the show, when he does finally have like a place, his own room in the bunker, like, we see these like fickleness come out. Suddenly he's like very fickle with his stuff in his room, like he decorates, and like we don't hear him complain about the crap motel room every night or the sleeping in the car. Yeah. But later on, when he is allowed to have things that are not that, we see that he does want those things. And I don't know, I mean, Dean is like between them, Sam and Dean both, like, there are so many things that they just won't say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of those things are like, well, what do we actually really want from life? Because, when your life is like this, when you say those things, I guess it's more harm than good. Because, if you can't have it, then, like, why say it? It's just horrible to think about.
Yeah. And I find Sam's, that's just details, like, quite interesting, too, because, like...
Yeah, I also read that as super interesting.
Like, because, okay, like, in the past, he's been, like, the I want a normal life guy. But, like, this seems to imply that it's not about, like, the comfort or safety of a normal life. It's, like, currently, that's just details. Like, he's saying, like, these, like, my ideals are that I want to help people. And, like... Yeah. This is the way to do it, and I'm willing to sacrifice personal comfort and things like that in order to do it. And I guess that makes me wonder if, like, going to Stamford was also, like, an ideological, like, I deserve better than to be raised in this household, and, like, by leaving, I'm, like, making a point about that. Yeah. Like, it's not just about I want, like, to live in a house that I own.
I mean, it is different for Sam when it's like leaving hunting and then leaving his family, because like for Sam to be able to leave his family, he does need to stop being a hunter. I think it's fundamental to that, because the hunter community is so small, and like eventually they'll have to work together, they'll have to like see each other, and if you just want to like completely remove yourself from that, then like you have no choice but to leave. And also, Sam didn't want to remove himself completely from that. It was John who said, if you want to do this, leave forever. I do think, like, Sam, if he didn't start out, like, in the hunting life, would choose to be a hunter. And maybe even if he wasn't in this particular hunting family, he would choose to be a hunter. It's just that his particular circumstances make that particular choice like more defeatist than it should be. If Sam lived a similar like life as Ellen and Joe, like that kind of environment where Joe grew up with hunter parents and like whatever, but like Ellen is purposefully trying to stop her from doing that.
Yeah.
Like, I think Sam would act like Joe and be like, but I actually do want to do it. It's just his particular set of circumstances makes it more complicated than just what do I want to do.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I will slot that into my many Sam interpretations as a potential one. Because I know that this is a controversial topic.
Is it?
Like, whether or not Sam wants to be a hunter is a very controversial topic, isn't it?
I suppose so. I mean, again, like, it's circumstantial. Want is a complicated word. Because, like, hunting is a complicated life.
And his associations with that are tied into many things that are beyond the job.
And, like, even here, like, when Sam goes, it's all just details. And it's like, yes, but also, you're only able to say that, really, because you don't know
what it's like.
In this, what it's like, what those details are, really, and what they entail, really. So... Yeah, we can also say here that, like, this Sam doesn't actually really want to hunt, just, like, the idea of it or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, his apartment's probably way less good than Dean's, so Dean's taking a way bigger step down than Sam is.
Yeah, probably, yeah. And Sam finally says, like, do you remember those dreams about the ghosts I told you about? I was fighting them with you. We were, hunters, and we were friends. More like brothers, really. I mean, what if that's who we really are? Like, what if we really are, like, brothers and we ought to work together and, like, we really are, like, hunters? And, yeah. I mean, and the rest of the conversation is Dean being like, you're crazy, that's crazy. Yeah, are we the crazy
You're
brothers?
the crazy brother.
I hate you. You're the crazy brother, not me. And Sam is, like, trying to say that, like, they, like, scrambled my brain and they scrambled your brain. Dean says, like, oh, but my family, like, I know them. I'm Dean Smith, director of sales and marketing. Went to Stanford. Father's name is Bob. Mother's name is Ellen. Sister's name is Joe. That's crazy. They
were like, why don't we just pair the spares in the background? Also, yeah, I so assumed that both of them were only children in this universe. So it's interesting to hear that, like, Dean is, like, an older brother here, but, like, that doesn't come with any of the responsibilities that being an older brother in his real life is. So, like, he can just be like, I didn't talk to her in a long time. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, Sam is like, you haven't talked to them in a long time, though. And I'll know, because, like, I moved here because I broke up with my fiance, Madison.
Ah!
That's crazy, right?
Yeah, that they chose her.
Yeah. But, you know, she called her number, and it was an animal hospital.
So true.
Love that. Sam says, all I know is I got this feeling in my gut, and I know that deep down you gotta be feeling it too. We're supposed to be something else. You're not just some corporate douchebag. This isn't you. I know you. And Dean says, know me? You don't know me, pal. You should go. And, like, I started crying at this.
Damn.
Because I remember a conversation I had with my sister when we were young. And, you know, when you're young and we were, like, young. Like, my sister and I, like, we have a 2-year age gap. So, like, we're pretty close in age.
Yeah. That
and
is
we're, like,
my
together
sister
all the time.
And I's age gap. It involves a lot of kicking each other and saying you wish the other person was never born when you were young.
Bro. Yeah, one time my sister, like, kicked me to the wall and I hit my back to the wall. And it was like, you know when you hit your back on the floor and all of your breath is, like, out of your body? That happened to me. And the whole time she was like, you deserved it because you're so horrible to me. And, you know, I probably did. I was a pretty horrible child. And, okay, well, this story is actually super sweet. But, like, one time, so we're kids, probably, like, 7 and 9. You know, so something like that. She was telling me, like, oh, no, what if I get lost? Like, how will you find me? And I was like, I'll know what you look like. And she says, no, but, like, what if they change my face? And, like, I'm trying to tell you, hey, this is me, but you don't recognize me. And I go, like, well, you'll tell me and I'll believe you. And she was like, no, but what if like they take away my memories and I don't remember? How will you know it's me? And I go, you have a mole on your back and it's very big and prominent. So I'll just go, show me your back, and you'll show me the mole and I'll know it's you. And she goes, but what if they remove the mole too? And I go, I think I'll just know it's you no matter what. And like, this scene reminds me of that. And it's like, they are siblings. I don't know. It's just, Sam and Dean are like, I feel like a lot of the time, like, we focus on their, like, conflict and, like, they hate each other and they're, like, bad up for each other most of the time, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But, like, this, like, when Sam says, like, I know you, it really is less, like, I know you in that, like, I understand you. Like, we constantly talk about, like, Sam and Dean not really understanding each other and understanding, like, the motivations, you know, like how they feel, really. But, like, at the end of the day, like, you'll know that's your brother. And it's not about, like, understanding him or whatever. It's, like, it's not about, like, understanding them, like, their motivations and everything. It's just, like, I know it's you, you know?
Yeah.
And, yeah, that does mean something to me.
Yeah.
And that same sister did kick me to the wall. It said
So
that I
true.
deserve it because I was so horrible. And it's probably true.
Yeah. It is interesting that they made them not brothers in this AU.
Yeah.
What was the reasoning there? Like, if Zachariah wanted Dean to realize who he's meant to be earlier, wouldn't he have them be together?
No, I don't think so.
No?
Because, like, the point is that actually I have a lot of things to say about, like, what Zachariah says later.
Okay.
So let's
We can save it for
let's
then.
go into the nitty-gritty of what Zachariah says later.
Okay.
But for why Sam and Dean are, like, not brothers here, and is that essential or whatever?
I think it's essential, but I'm just curious about why the choice was made.
Well, first, you cannot have them in the same, like, power position, I think. Do you think they could have been, like, brothers, but Sam is, like, a call center guy, and Dean is, like, an exec?
That probably would have been rough. It would have garnered a lot of jealousy or whatever.
Exactly, like, there would already be, like, an underlying thing there, if that's the case.
Well, they
So,
could be
the other
Hunter Corp.
Yeah, the other option is, like, they're both execs, which, again, as I've said, if you put Sam in Dean's role, like, it just wouldn't work in the way Sarah Gamble wants it to work.
In terms of being homophobic, but, like, that's not, like, all of the point of this.
Actually, I do think it's a major point of it.
It is a pretty major point of it, but I guess I was just asking from, like, a Zachariah, like, motivation perspective. But, like, yeah, I think you should keep talking about it from a story's perspective.
Like, again, as I've said, I do view this episode as, like, they put Dean in here, and then later on they put Sam in, because, like, whatever is happening with Dean, like, there's no instigation, so we need Sam to instigate.
Yeah, so you're saying, like, Dean would see Ian stab himself in the neck in the bathroom and see, like, a ghost in the mirror, but probably just go, like, okay, what else? They could have given him the dreams.
That's true. But we have to keep to the themes and motifs. And we really do. I think if they're both, like, call center guys, I also think it wouldn't work.
Really?
Because, like, Dean just would be Ian.
They could make him, like, really like his job and dress up really nice and add a tie to his yellow shirt and stuff.
Yeah, but, like, when Sam starts going, but is this all your life is? Like, whatever, like, Dean cannot make the argument of, like, I don't know, but I like having a nice life that's, like, rich and expensive. This is actually one of the rare opportunities in a Supernatural episode where I'm like, I think they did it exactly just right. So we go back to Sam's cubicle, and he looks, you know, pissed, doesn't like what's happening. And his phone starts ringing. And he just loses it. He takes off his headphones. And, like, this is not, like, losing it as in he's angry. Like, completely normal guy. Just, like, he was like, and now I will destroy this fucking phone.
Yeah.
You know? And it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And so he takes off his headset and picks up, like, the fucking iron whatever.
Yeah.
He brought it with him. And then he just starts beating the hell out of the phone.
Yeah.
And then, like, I don't know, it stops ringing. And then everyone's looking at him. Because it's, like, very long scene. Just beating this fucking phone. And then it's over. He takes a breath. Looks at everyone who is obviously staring at him. And then he just goes, I quit.
God bless. He's so fun.
He said quiet quitting. Bro, I will loud quit. And he did.
Yeah. Do you think if he was a lawyer, like, is it just that he hates working IT? Like, how would he be okay as a lawyer?
You think, like, in the middle of the case, he'll be like, fuck this. And then what? takes the judge's gavel and it's just like, slams it down. He's
yeah,
like,
it goes, my
"Court is
client's
adjourned.
guilty," and then
shit."
leaves.
Yeah. Wonderful. I think a part of it is the monotony of the job. Actually, like, we skipped it over earlier, but, like, he tells Dean, like, I think I should be doing something else. And Dean says, I think most people
Who
in
work
your
at a
job
call center
think that.
feel that way, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, Zachariah gave Sam, like, the worst job ever because he knew that if Sam got another job, he'd be okay, or?
No, it's just, I think having him have this job would make him more motivated to, like, do the things that will instigate Dean's action, which is the goal of the Zachariah.
That makes sense. This is very fun. I just feel like I normally don't... I feel like Sam usually has an ability to be calm, but, like, for this one, it's, like, I guess it's just, like, so irritating, and also, like, I don't... Maybe, like, choosing to quit your job and start hunting is sort of a scary thing, so maybe if he's, like, if I do this in such a way where, like, it's literally impossible for me to ever come back, like, that'll be, like, what really forces me into that lifestyle, and I want that.
I mean, he's annoyed, obviously, but again, as I've said, like, the picking up the fucking stick and, like, putting the headphones down, it's
true.
done in such,
It's
like,
calculated.
a calm, like, I've thought it out, and I have decided that this is the logical conclusion to this thought process. I think a part of it is just, like, I want to make, like, I have decided that I will do this thing already. And, like, maybe burning bridges, as you said. Like, let's just make it so that I can never come back.
Yeah.
Which I think is very Sam Winchester.
Yeah. Love that guy. Love that guy. So, now we get a whole long Dean scene that Sam never gets because they hate him. They hate him and want him to die. So, Zachariah comes into Dean's office and, you know, is checking up on him and saying, like, oh, I hear that you're really good at your job and it's important to me that you're happy, so how's this for a bonus? And he slips him a piece of paper and he says it's because he wants to make sure Dean's not going anywhere and that he sees big things in Dean's future. Maybe even Senior VP, Eastern Great Lakes Division. And then he starts saying, like, you'll have to work for it 7 days a week, lunch at your desk, but in 8 to 10 short years, that could be you. And it starts, like, zooming in on his mouth or whatever, I think, on, like, 8 to 10 short years. And Dean's, like, being like, oh, fuck, this actually sucks. Yeah, Dean says, oh, well, thank you, but, I am giving my notice. I've recently realized that I have some other work to do that's very important to me. It's just not who I'm supposed to be. And then Zachariah, who before this has just been like, oh my god, no, don't quit. He finally grins, and he goes, Dean, finally. And then he presses 2 fingers to his forehead, restores his memories, and the coloring of the episode gets less saturated.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. It's such a seamless transition, too. I love it.
Pretty fun.
Specifically, I forgot to mention it this entire episode. The coloring this episode really brings out Sam's green eyes in a way that is so terrifying to me personally.
Because he should have beautiful brown eyes all the time.
He should have beautiful, wide doe puppy brown eyes or whatever.
Yeah.
Dean says, like, what the hell? Why am I wearing a tie? My God, am I hungry? Which, we mentioned it earlier.
Dean's like, did I just get touched by an angel? Like, you're an angel, right? And Zachariah introduces himself. Dean's annoyed. And Zachariah says that he's Castiel's superior.
Hell it.
Yeah. This guy literally went to Cass and was like, you're getting, like, kind of homo with Dean Winchester. I'm gonna make him gay for real. He says that he had no interest in popping down here into one of these smelly things, indicating his vessel. Which is fun. I like the ways that angels interface with their vessels differently. He says that he's here to get all of his ducks in a row because of what happened with Uriel. And Dean is like, oh, so this was like a lesson? Wow. Very creative. And Zachariah says, you should see my decoupage, which is a craft where you like glue together paper and like gold leaf and other things. Which, like, this is probably, like, a joke, but also, like, I think it'd be so fun if he actually is, like, an arts and crafts guy.
Exactly.
I think all the angels should have hobbies and interests up in heaven. Like, Uriel's the funniest angel in the garrison. Zachariah's the most creative angel in the garrison.
Every, like, couple eons, he has a workshop where he teaches the angels how to do paper mache.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful experience.
Yeah, in later years, like, they make cast piñatas and then whack them with bats. Dean says, gross, no thank you, which I think is a joke that decoupage sounds like. I don't know how you pronounce it. Décolletage? You know, the French, the thing that means cleavage. Yeah, so Dean asks if this was a hallucination, and Zachariah explains that no, this was a real place with a real haunting. He just put Dean in the middle of this without the benefit of his memories. Dean says a sentence of all time. He says, just so you guys can have fun watching us run around like ass clowns in monkey suits.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
You got it right on the money, buddy.
And Zachariah says, to prove to you that the path you're on is truly in your blood. You're a hunter. Not because your dad made you, not because God called you back from hell, but because it is what you are and you love it. You'll find your way to it in the dark every time, and you're miserable without it. Dean, let's be real here. You're good at this. You'll be successful, and you will stop this. What an interesting thing. Are we doing a breakdown?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, some of it.
Okay. Path you're on is truly in your blood. I mean,
it's crazy thing to say.
Yeah.
Because, like, you're a hunter not because your dad made you, not because God called you back from hell. And it's like, independently, these things can be true. I mean, they are. But the blood in question is also, like, a heavenly crafted. Like,
yeah.
That is manipulated by heaven to be this way.
Yeah, they set up Mary and John.
Eons. Like, eons. That's not true. It's not that long. But, like, generations of people were paired together, were, you know, like, lined up perfectly so that it will result to Sam and Dean with this exact blood, as they say. It's so insidious to be like, your blood, like, it's in your blood. As, like, something that is, like, it is natural to you, and it's, like, you're fated to do it because of what is in your body. Mm-hmm. When, like, their very bodies, both him and Sam, are, like, perfectly engineered to be this way.
Yeah.
It's fucking crazy.
It is pretty crazy.
Like, it's so insidious. I don't know. I mean, supernatural is, again, like, multiple times I've said, I love, like, concepts of fate and free will, right?
Yeah.
And
but they love doing it through biological determinism.
Supernatural is such an interesting show in the fate and free will part, because it's like, the fate in question is like, it's not a divine calling. They make it a point that, like, it really is like a blood thing. Like, it's in your blood, which is, I mean, we can, lots of things we can say about that, but Supernatural, I think, doesn't really do a very good job of telling us that, like, this is terrifying. To be in a situation like this where you cannot even deny the inherentness of something about you, because from the beginning of humanity, the intention of you being born this way with this exact physicality, exact makeup, has already been decided. And, like, generations and generations of your family has been, you know, manufactured and engineered in this way so that you could exist in this way, is like, that is, like, horror. That's horror.
Yeah.
And having Zachariah say this specifically is like, I mean, like, obviously, like, you know, I know about the Cupid episode. I know that that's the case with Mary and John.
Yeah.
It's just this line specifically, like, when I heard, like, when he said it, like, I literally got chills. I was like, God, that's actually, like, so fucking terrifying.
Yeah. It's also the fact that, like, he's talking about hunters like they're, like, a separate species from humans.
Yeah.
Which is, like, certainly interesting. And, like, I don't, like, they do this in the fucking Winchesters, too, where, like, they also seem to view hunters as, like, a separate species from humans, which is why, like, the villain wants to kill all humans because they're, like, oppressing hunters by, like, needing to be rescued or whatever the fuck. Crazy show. Yeah, that is interesting. And it also, like, I don't know, it reminds me of, like, the whole, like, military families thing where, like, the, like, largest predictor of someone joining the military is their family, like, another family member being in the military, and how, like, that's often treated as, like, a higher calling, as well as, like, I mean, there's the biological component, as in, like, if you, like, take certain fitness tests, they'll be, like, you are meant to be in the military, like, these are, like, the physical assets you have, and you're, like, wasting them by, like, not joining us to, like, murder people. So, like, yeah, I think that's an interesting component of it. The next thing that I find interesting is not because God called you back from hell. So Zachariah fully believes the orders are from God. We've seen, like, different angel attitudes on this. Zachariah has faith. So, that's neat.
Also, I do genuinely think God called Dean back from hell.
Oh, yeah.
Just because we know who God is, and he would do that.
You're miserable without it? Yeah, and you love it, you're miserable
The thing is,
it.
like, you love it and you're miserable without it are, like...
different.
Those are different things. You can be miserable without something and still be miserable with it. Does Dean love hunting? Like, again, like, it's complicated. Like, aspects of it you can love, and then aspects of it are so terrible too. So, like, yeah.
Yeah. Is he miserable without it, though? Like, we see season 6, like, and, okay, I feel like what I see of, like, the opening to season 6 is just, like, guy's got PTSD. Are we supposed to think, like, he, like, misses hunting and wants to go back?
I don't think that at all.
Okay.
Season 6, not at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's also Sarah Gamble, isn't it?
Yeah, season 6 and 7, Sarah Gamble. And that episode specifically is Sarah Gamble.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the next line is, let's be real here, you're good at this, you'll be successful.
You will stop it.
The way it's ordered is like, you love it, you're miserable without it, you're good at it, you're gonna be successful. The implication there, it's like the one leads to the other, and then leads to the other, and then leads to the other.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's so insidious. Like, Zachariah is such a good, like, evil character.
Yeah.
Because, like, he's well-spoken. I think because Cass is not of this mindset with Dean.
Yeah.
He'll never say these kinds of things to Dean.
Right.
Uriel...
yeah, he's just
kind
more
of does,
like...
but...
oh, Uriel's mostly just like, well, you have to listen to us because you have to.
Yeah. Like, Uriel doesn't understand, like, the concept of, like getting into Dean's head. Because he doesn't think it's worth it.
Yeah.
Like, Uriel thinks Dean is below him. And it's like, whatever, I can make him follow anyway, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, Zachariah, like, understands like Dean's psyche and is able to get deep in there. And I mean, like, towards the end of this episode, like, as his words continue, okay, let's do the words. So, like, yeah, you will stop it, and, well, Dean asks for clarification, like, is it the apocalypse or are you talking about?
Yeah, or Lucifer, and he goes, you'll do everything you're destined to do. All of it. But I know, you're not strong enough, you're scared, you got daddy issues, you can't do it, right? And Dean, like, gets angry, but Zachariah says, all I'm saying is, it's how you look at it. Most folks live and die without moving anything more than the dirt it takes to bury them. You get to change things, save people, maybe even the world. All the while you drive a classic car and fornicate with women. This isn't a curse, it's a gift. So for God's sake, Dean, quit whining about it. There are plenty of fates worse. He says, look around, there are plenty of fates worse than yours. So are you with me? You want to go steam yourself another latte, or are you ready to stand up and be who you really are? What a guy, what a speech.
What a speech. And like the last part is like, this is actually good for you because like you're living behind the legacy or whatever, you're actually doing things instead of just quote doing things.
Yeah.
And you're gonna look so cool while doing it.
Yeah, you get to be a straight hunter, as we've said. Yeah, this isn't a curse, it's a gift? What the hell? Yeah.
And the thing is, like, these are words that Dean has, like, expressed at some point, right? Like, is it Bugs? He's like, oh, look at the suburban people. Oh, look, I can never live like this. Like, actually, our lives, like, that's the good one. Like, these guys are, like, just being whatever. Dean would say those things either because he believes it or he wants to believe it due to, like, an insecurity he has about his life, right? And so, Zachariah being able to recognize that and then tapping into it and, like, feeding into those like thought process that Dean has used to justify his life in the past.
Yeah.
To be able to continue justifying this is like, it's good. It's so good.
Yeah.
He really said, I will get into your head, boy. And then he did.
Yeah. I do still think it's crazy that he said, like, look around at these people working in an office. Their lives are way worse than your life. Like, are we sure?
There's the aspect of supernatural, where it's like, is supernatural trying to convince us that this is true?
Yeah. I feel, I don't, it's just so interesting that they think that there's only two ways to live your life.
No, obviously, but like,
but
are
also,
they?
Yeah, like, do they,
what
they think to the, like, is the audience supposed to
What
think?
is the message trying to be said here? Yeah. Like,
I guess
what are we supposed to be thinking here?
I thought about it before, but, like, is supernatural, like, escapism for people sometimes who, like, are like, I wish I was a hunter instead of my current life? Like, probably, I guess.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
So, like, I guess this is just for those people, right? Like, well, you're right.
Yeah. I think about this and, like, because the way the statement is worded too is, like, it goes from, like, you'll save the world, and then it's, like, and you specifically are gonna have, like, some form of, like, glory or whatever in your life. I think about, like, you know, like, how you've read Song of Achilles?
Yeah.
Madeline Miller, or whatever. And, like, I think about the fact there that, like, I don't know why I'm quoting this instead of... No, but, like, specifically the way they, like, paint it in that book specifically. Like, the prophecy is, like, you're either going to fulfill your prophecy, or if you don't fulfill your prophecy, the alternative is you'll just die of old age. Like, you'll just have a normal life, and you'll fade into obscurity, you'll die of old age, whatever. And, like, obviously it's different for Dean, because, like, it's like the world will end, or you do this, you know? And, like, the pressure for Dean is, like, a lot more intense than, like, a king telling you should do this, because, like, these are, like, angels who have, like, actual, like, powers and everything. But I do think about the fact that in that book, like, they make it a point to show that, like, Achilles does frequently think that, like, I had no choice in the matter. Like, it's a prophecy, I had no choice, even though, like, he was told, like, early on that, like, no, actually, you do have a choice.
Yeah.
It's either die in glory or live, like, a normal life, and you chose the die in glory, but you're making it seem like there was no choice. Because, like, it feels like the normal life isn't even a choice at all.
Yeah.
And I think about that, and I think about Dean, and, like, Dean's attitude towards hunting does fluctuate a lot. But, yeah, I don't know. The fact that a big part of the advertisement to being a hunter and living your fate for him is you can look cool doing it.
Yeah. Like in the movies.
Crazy to me. Like in the movies. Isn't it so funny that the episode that we're like, and we care enough about Dean to talk about his character in depth is the one where, like,
he's not him.
Very little, like, he doesn't have his memories, he's not himself.
Yeah.
Oh, Dean.
I mean, he's a lot more likable in Yellow Fever also.
Yeah, we're gonna have a field day in, like, remembering Dean.
Oh, yeah.
Well, anyway. What do we think about this episode? I think it's
I
neat.
liked it. Even though, like, almost the entire point of it is homophobia.
Best line, worst line. Can I just choose, like, Zachariah's entire speech?
Sure.
Well, I mean, because I also am thinking about the Sam speech, like...
Yeah, that was my second choice.
This isn't you, I know you, really gets to me. And then Zachariah's entire speech is wonderful.
Yeah.
G-MILF is pretty fun.
Best line of this episode.
I mean, they don't even have any women in this episode. And, like, the only mention of a woman is G-MILF. Mimi, right?
Yeah.
Well, can we put that as a misogyny point? I mean, the thing is, like...
I mean, the
let's
guy's
talk about
supposed to be sleazy. I don't know, maybe. But yeah,
Well...
I don't know. I think I liked when Sam said, like, quoted Bruce Springsteen, that he, like, I don't like my job, I don't like this town, I don't like my clothes, I don't like my own last name.
Yeah.
It feels like I should be doing something else. There's just something in my blood.
He said, I don't like my clothes, I don't like my face, my hair's fine, though. And it literally is fine.
Yeah, it is whatever color pleases God. It literally is. I mean, he chose that shit, probably Chuck did.
Exactly. Worst line?
I
think Sam's like, dude, when Ian started bucketing the
don't be
pencils,
so
was
dick,
like,
Sam. I mean, yeah, I feel like
you see that shit, you just go, you do a little giggle even if you're in the mood, and then you're done.
I think I was bothered by Dean's line about not going to the gym because of how I took it. And I also thought that Ian's whole making fun of Sam for his dreams stuff was also, like, overdone. So I guess those are the two major negative moments.
Well, spread those sheets.
Spread those sheets. Let's see. Misogyny. It is weird that, like, no women work in this office.
No, but
but it's
the
not
thing
really
is, like,
anything, yeah.
When there's no, like, people of color in the episode, we zero it.
Yeah, so it's probably
and
the same thing.
I still am not super comfy with the fact that we do that.
Yeah.
I mean, because there should be something. Like, you can't just keep getting away with this because you don't involve people of color in your show.
Sometimes they're racist without people of color being there, like in Houses of the Holy.
Exactly. Okay, so let's just zero the misogyny and racism in this one.
Sure, yeah. Homophobia.
I think we need to give a 5.
Are we? Okay, alright, okay, all the way there?
4, maybe?
Yeah, I was thinking 3 or 4.
I think it's a 4 or 5.
Yeah, okay, it is intrinsic to the episode. That part is true.
It's very intrinsic, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I think a 4 makes sense. Yeah. Wow. Is this our first 4? Like...
I think so. Ever. With anything. I think we were never really, like, going above
like a 3 in the past.
3.
Yeah. Yeah, plus we've only been doing this kind of scale for 2 seasons. Like before that we were just giving Sam and Dean individual points. Yeah, well, there we are. IMDb.
There we are then.
This is enjoyed, I'm assuming. It's famous.
Oh, for sure. But do we think it's higher than On the Head of a Pin?
No, I don't think it's that.
I don't think it is, but I think it should be.
Huh. Bold words.
Bold words. I'll give this a 9.
Okay.
I think this is a 9.0.
I think it's a little bit lower than that. I think it's an 8.9, but maybe I'm lying. Well, hit me with the truth.
Let's see. It's an 8.6.
Oh, that's low.
Much lower than I thought.
Yeah, it's the same as Death Takes a Holiday. Are people like, Dean wouldn't do that?
This one's called it topical.
This one called it an unnecessary story.
This one called it
a rebuke of late capitalism and a social satire piece. Huh.
Not revolutionary or anything, but one of the more politically overt episodes. I mean, it is true.
Yeah, it is one of the more politically overt episodes, I suppose.
In that, like, they
actually mentioned the economy one time.
Yeah.
This person said that they thought it'd be that they didn't like that the Ghostfacers were gonna come back. That's so sad.
Yeah.
Ghostfacers are great.
This one says you have to dial up the suspension of disbelief knob. Just watch it, don't think about it.
What? I loved thinking about it.
I love to think about it. Obviously this person has never had a podcast where they talk about and think about an episode in depth for multiple hours.
Yeah. This person said the pre-credits sequence is too long. Well, no, it's not. It's very important to have this AMV. This
one calls it greatest filler episode so far. I would not call this filler like at all.
I mean, I guess they don't know about the Michael plot is the thing. So like the Zachariah shit, like I feel like it's enhanced a lot by knowing what Dean's ultimate fate is. I think if you don't know that, you're like, okay, he's being dramatic.
Yeah. Well, that's it for this episode of Busty Asian Beauties. Next week, we will be discussing Season 4, Episode 18, Monster at the End of This Book. Ooh. Leave us a rating or a review wherever you get your podcast.
Follow us on social media. We are on Tumblr at bustyasianbeautiespod.tumblr.com. Our official tag is babpod, BABpod. Thanks to everyone who's donated to our Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/bustyasianbeautiespod. And check out our merch at babpod.redbubble.com.
Also, like, we're probably gonna be putting up our, like, post-episode, like, whatever on Ko-fi now.
Oh,
because it's too long. We've been making episodes that are incredibly long.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Just so that it doesn't fuck too terribly with the runtime. You can email us. You can email us at bustyasianbeautiespod@gmail.com. See you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.